All right, hey everybody, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to give you guys some positive, productive feedback on these text-based resumes that you submitted this week. So I'm going to go through each one and offer a little bit of insight on what I see. And the feedback that I provide can be extrapolated, from one person to the next. Kind of looking ahead, there are some things that I want you guys to be thinking of and to be aware of as you proceed through the MCBS portfolio experience. The first is that part of this exercise was to get you to start to articulate how your skills and experience are related to the media communications industry, and then to identify if you don't have the kinds of experience that you need to get your dream job in media, how do you fill that gap between now and graduation? What can you do to build your resumes in those specific areas? Additionally, as you are continuing to learn how to articulate what you've done in a position or on a project, to not look just at what your responsibilities are, but also your accomplishments and what you were able to achieve in that role. That will not just show kind of what you were assigned to do, but how effective you are in that. And then last but not least, you will be evolving this iteration of your resume, which is mostly just text-based, into a visually branded version, something that's a bit more styled and consistent with your developing personal brand in Portfolio 6. So heads up right away, save this in a place that is safe and accessible, so that as you continue to build your skills and experience throughout your time in MCBS, you can readily update this. It's not something that you want to sit idle for the next year and kind of forget everything that you've done in between now and then. But anytime you kind of have an experience that you think like, wow, this is a resume builder, to come back, access this document, and update it. So we're going to start with Alexis. So here, very clean, and I applaud all of you guys for really resisting the urge to fully stylize and give your resumes an aesthetic feel, because again, this is just about the content. So we have an objective here that talks about using your new media skills in writing. So that's great. We know that you are a writer, and it's nice that you're able to kind of identify those interests and aptitudes very early here. The summary of your qualifications are strong, as are kind of the listing of your technical skills here. I'm seeing that you don't have a lot of professional experience that you want to list on this media-centric or writing-centric resume, but I am happy to see that you were able to take a Friday Blend experience and then articulate your role within that project and how you were able to bring value to what you did there. So that was great. And then we've got your education and training. You have your anticipated graduation date there, which is what we encourage you to do. This is a wonderful start. It's as simple as this, you guys. So you might think, oh, I don't have much that I can add or what I can put here, but it's got to start somewhere. And this is a great example of, just really combing through your experiences, your skills, your past work history, to see what you can bring forward in a relevant and meaningful way into the career, or trying to get that career of the media professional you want to be. Next up, I am going to take a look here at, let's see whose this is. This looks like Jenner's. Okay, so here we have your objective. It kind of lets people know what your skill sets are and how you want to use your education, to seek different types of projects and opportunities. This is kind of, somewhat vague in the sense that, you talk a lot about like your motivations and your skill set, but how do you want to apply them? Maybe looking for a little bit more specificity there. You have tons of great skills. I would go ahead and do things like, say, Adobe Photoshop or Adobe After Effects, just because those are keywords. If a particular position was looking for someone who is proficient in the Adobe Creative Suite, you'd make sure to stack your skill set here with those words. We've got your education, where you've been, and all the dates, all that is listed great, because remember, guys, we want to do this in a chronological order, so the most recent stuff on the top and then the older stuff kind of as it flows down. We've got your professional experience here. So one of the things that I see, Jenna, for you is you say you manage all the social media channels. To what effect? To what end? How have you been able to make positive strides or an impact in this position? That might be something that you can quantify, just to show, basically the value that you're bringing there. The summary of your qualifications is short and sweet. It just, basically kind of gives that more well-rounded picture of who someone would be hiring if they brought you on board. Again, a wonderful example. But one thing I have noticed kind of between these two resumes here is there's no name on the top. It's okay, obviously, for this exercise that's not there. But you might want to consider, your name and a tagline, and maybe not something, super colloquial, but if you kind of identify as in a certain role or trying to get a certain type of position, you might see something like this person's name and creative content developer, or this person's name and social media strategy and marketing, something like that, just to kind of add, some additional focus to what it is that you are communicating about yourself and your abilities. So here we have Joseph. So it's very clean. It's very well laid out. It doesn't have a ton of aesthetic style applied, but just in terms of the organization and the layout of this information is really strong. Like, we can very easily scan this and pick up all of the information that we might be looking for about Joseph. So here we have contact info, and then just seeking a position in graphic art, web, video, and marketing. So we get kind of a clear idea of where Joseph feels that he can lend his expertise and make an impact. So we've got the skills. Again, I might say Adobe, Photoshop, Adobe, Lightroom, and those types of things, just so you can make sure. I like that you have CMS software over here, but you go ahead and spell out the ones that you are proficient in. So again, more keywords. Just kind of one comment on the italicized text here. It makes it a little bit harder to read. It is something that you use for emphasis or impact, and when you do that to all of the text, it loses the potency or the initial enhancement effects. You've done a wonderful job with your information, like the hierarchy of it and the architecture, whereby you're leveraging headings and subheadings in a meaningful way. The recommendation here would just to not use an italicized version of a text for so much of what you're offering here on this. So here we have your freelance work, and so with web and graphic design, I don't think that you need to put multiple locations because it's web and graphic. There is the understanding that is most likely virtual work. Let's see, work one-on-one with clients. That's great to improve their visual identity, keep them branded. This is a good characterization of, what you do for these clients. Again, what I might say is not just kind of what your responsibilities are, but what the impact or the impact that you've made in a particular role. Same thing here. I don't think multiple locations is needed. Working in a variety of areas. So this is good because it talks a little bit about the diversity of your photography styles, which is great. So you talk a little bit about your client satisfaction or customer service. I might like to see a little bit more detail here. This kind of sounds a little bit like a sales pitch, not kind of what you... It sounds a little bit more like marketing instead of kind of a relaying of facts. So you might want to revisit that language and just characterize that in a slightly different way. Of course, always happy to see volunteer and leadership experience. Anywhere you can, like if you have enough room, I wouldn't abbreviate things if there's enough space within your layout, just because, for scanning and keyword matchup. So you talk kind of about what you did here at, the Baptist church. I'm really enjoying kind of seeing the full picture of who you are as a young professional and kind of the areas that you're volunteering your service. You've got your certifications from Linda. Right, so this stuff is great. Lynda is awesome, but what I'll say is the world at large doesn't necessarily know what lynda.com is, right? So if you're going to kind of promote that, look at all of this stuff that I've gotten from Lynda, you might want to go ahead and contextualize this by, saying something like certificates from the lynda.com learning library, and then maybe explain it with one other sentence that says something about how it offers just a broad range of in-depth training and certifications with technical skills and communication skills. I'm going to kind of leave that up to you a little bit, obviously, for how to word that. These are all in-depth skills here, and in some ways, though, they're the same. It's kind of a mirror of what we see here. This is definitely stuff that can be good for a portfolio site, but at some point, you're going to have to be working on getting this resume down to one page, and in doing that, now, this might be a section that you would cut. Your languages. Now, this is one area that you really shine. The fact that you speak, these number of different languages can really help you in finding a job. And then references available upon request. That's just a perfect way to, let people know that you have individuals willing to speak on your behalf. And just to get that contact information from you when they want to kind of verify your skills, experience, and character. So Joseph, this is great overall. I've given you a few simple notes here. One thing I will say, the skills, it looks like it should be bigger. This text here is 16-point font. This skills is 12. So in order to be consistent with the headings and subheadings that you set up, you'll want to make that 16. All right, next up we have the resume of Akil Penn. So Akil, this is a very clean and well organized resume. You've hit all of the major areas and you have a pretty extensive work history and a lot of skills to really fill out a resume really well. My curiosity and my question to you is kind of looking at your objective here to obtain a help desk position. I'm wondering, is this a resume perhaps that you've used in the past to maybe get that type of job? Or is it something that you now want to use your media communication skills to just enhance the work that you do in this type of position? This is a great entry point into the conversation about the ways that we will customize our resume for whatever career aspirations we have or whatever the job is that we are applying for. We can certainly call out or tease out portions of our work history that will really showcase our skills that would make us a better candidate for certain types of jobs. So kind of looking at the history of Akil's work experience, there's a broad range of things here. So my my encouragement to you, Akil, moving forward is to think about, okay, is there a clear connection between the skills and experiences that I've listed and the media communication industry? Now, the reason why you would ask that question is because if you're trying to get a job in the media communications industry, you want to make sure that the content that you have curated here and that you are showcasing about your skills and experience really speak to your ability in this industry, right? And if you find that, I have some gaps, sort of between where I am now and where I need to be by the time I graduate or by the time I start to look for these jobs, now would be the time for you to identify opportunities for you to gain that experience or, flex the muscles related to media type jobs or industries. So kind of scrolling down, you've hit all the main points. I know that I've said that before, and you've got your references and then a lot of your skills listed up here. So thinking ahead, looking ahead into kind of how you can use this as the basis for an evolved or visually branded version. You've got the text-based content in Portfolio 6. You will be responsible for taking your resume where it is at that moment. And we are assuming that between now and the next time you pick this up to redesign it, that you will have had new experiences. Certainly every single one of you can add a resume line or two just with the work that you're doing at Hall of Fame. So be thinking about how can I update this text-based version of my resume kind of every step along the way as I get closer to graduation. And then in Portfolio 6, you will be taking another look at this, but in a way to kind of bring it more in alignment with your personal brand. And so you have a lot of stuff here, and it's spilling over to onto 2 pages. At some point, you can work on a 1-page design that is really a more streamlined curation of specific media-related skills, experiences, roles, projects that you've worked on. So last but not least, I am going to jump now over to Valerie's resume here. So very striking, clean layout. It's certainly just text, but it's laid out in a very attractive and easy to kind of follow way. We've got your objective, which is to work on a variety of creative projects and basically to be able to employ your skills. I'd like to see this become a bit more directed, right? So this is kind of a general statement, which is fine for the purposes of this activity, but let's say you had a specific job that you were applying for, and that the title of that job or the role of that job would need to sort of be attached or apparent within your objective, right? So when you say that you want to use your skills to work on a variety of creative projects, it needs to kind of very easily translate into like this job that I am applying for right now. You have a bunch of skills. We can see that you have used the keyword the keywords here of Microsoft Word /pages. So these are word processors, right? So you didn't say Apple's pages, right? So you are saying Microsoft's pages, but you didn't say Apple's pages. And I know that you know how to use Google Docs too, but I don't see that anywhere on here either. So a way that you might address this would be something like, Microsoft Office Suite, Apple's productivity tools, and the full range of Google Docs or full range of the Google Suite or programs. Those are all great keyword rich terms that will help employers or human resources professionals kind of match their requirements with your skills. With the website and the SEO stuff and the CMS, or if there are particular platforms that you prefer or like to work with or feel particularly skilled in there, say WordPress, Squarespace, etc., that would be where you might want to clarify that. With your experience here, it kind of looks like this might be like a little bit of a lighter color. I don't know if that's a trick on my eyes right now, but I would definitely not make that a lighter color. You need to provide a little bit of emphasis because this is both the position you held and where you held it. Thinking about the flow of the information, this would be an area that you might even want to change the style of this text just slightly, or maybe even bump it up slightly. Just in terms of the scanning, our eyes will kind of pause there for a moment longer if it is a little bit different looking in terms of the visual. All of this is great. This is something that I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but not just focusing on what were my responsibilities in this position, but what was I able to accomplish? How effective was I? What was the unique stamp that I and only I was able to bring to this position? You have a great deal of experience at this point, especially in terms of your work history. I'd like to see you particularly be thinking about how can you also add your project-based work here and the roles that you're playing in creative collaborations and on teams, because it says here that you're looking for a variety of challenging creative projects, but just looking specifically at kind of your work history, There's not a lot here that can kind of back up your ability to do just that, right? I'm sure that there were things that you did in each of these roles, that you could highlight certain media or communication related functions or tasks associated with those things, and to the extent that you can, that would help support saying that you want to get a job in a media communications related industry. Overall, just really beautiful, and it seems like it's already styled to some extent. I would say that this looks pretty personally branded already, if this was kind of the look and feel of everything you do. So beautiful work here, and certainly a lot that you can use to evolve both the content and the experience of your resume into the next iteration in Portfolio 6. So you guys, just kind of as a quick wrap up, looking ahead, I want you to be forward thinking and to know what is going to be expected of you, and to kind of give you a little bit of coaching or advice on how to approach the months between Portfolio 3 and Portfolio 6. So again, is there a clear connection between the skills and the experiences that you've listed and the media communications industry? More specifically, if you want to get into some sort of video editing position, do the skills and experience that you've listed align with video editing or videography related work? If you want to get into a particular line of work and you don't have any skills or experiences that can really speak to your abilities in those areas, what can you do between now and graduation to gain some experience, to gain some skills? And be thinking about, okay, it's not just what I was responsible for, but how effective I was with those responsibilities, and how can I show that? How can I show my unique value or my individual stamp on this position? And again, in Portfolio 6, you will be doing a visual version of this resume, and it will be consistent with your personal brand. Part of that will be to, kind of really streamline and curate the content so that it fits on a single page. So you really kind of take that fine-tooth comb to your content and say, what is essential? What is the most, the richest terms that I can use here? What are the fewest words that I can use to give the fullest picture of what I was able to do in this position? If you guys have any questions about this feedback, let me know, and always happy to look at anything that you create or revise. Thanks, guys.